Sex.
Male.
Family.
Child.
Divorce.
No.
Professor Freud. I'm Dr. Jung.
I've simply opened a door. It's for the young men like yourself to walk through it.
Perhaps she's the one for your experimental treatment.
Tell me about the first time.
The real breakthrough for me was I befriended the curator of the Jung Museum in the Burg Hölzli Hospital in Zurich. And at a certain point he said to me, who is this patient that you're interested in? I said, she's called Sabina Speilrein. He said, have you any idea when she was admitted? I said, well, you know, roughly 17th of August 1904. And he said, I'm locking up the museum now, come down to the basement. And in the basement was the hospital archive. And he took a black ledger off the shelves, and it was the case notes of Sabina Speilrein, written, typed by Jung with his handwritten remarks in the margin. It was absolute gold dust. And I said, but you know, it's all in German, there's quite a lot of it. He said, well, you've got half an hour and there's a photocopier in the corner. So that was the start of the whole thing for me. And I really wanted to, one of the things I wanted to do was to bring her back into prominence, really, because she was a remarkable woman who had an exemplary career, and actually had a lot of input into the ideas of both Jung and Freud.
For me, one of the attractions of doing a biopic is resurrection. You know, you were really trying to bring these people back to life because you would like to see them in action. You'd like them to be alive, and to do that in any satisfying way, you have to be faithful to what they really were and not try to idealize them or on the other hand, attack them. But we had no agenda, really. I mean, there's a built-in feminist aspect to the story because of what Sabina was and the repression of women at the time. In fact,
well, I would say that I think in the hands of another director who was less assured, less knowledgeable, less well-read about the subject matter, about both Freud and Jung and Speilrein, it would have been a very dull movie, I think, and you know, someone who had felt the pressure all the time of making an important movie about an important subject. And I think that the best thing that David did, which is what I've experienced always with him, is that he instills confidence by creating a calm, professional, and fun atmosphere on the set. You know, he gets you under his spell and creates the illusion that there's plenty of time, there's no pressure, and it's all going to work out. And you know, that I think that the movie works because it doesn't get bogged down in trying to be academic. I think there's plenty of material here if you're a fanatical follower of Jung to be upset about and maybe to be slightly pleased about, and the same for followers of Freud and those who maybe wanted to see Speilrein vindicated. But that's not really the most important thing. That's not what I took from the experience of shooting it, much as
I think it is a very challenging role. I think that was one of the reasons that I really wanted to play her, because I didn't know who she was. You know, I think very often when you play characters, there are certain threads that sort of link you. You know, emotionally, you can understand exactly what the person went through. With this one, I had no frame of reference, but that was what was fascinating and exciting about it. So it really was, you know, a question of trying to find logic within what was perceived from the outside to be madness, because I think as much as she knew that she was ill, there were logical reasons within her for the way that she behaved. So it was really trying to understand exactly what that logic was. And
I think that it depends how you approach acting, but to me the best acting and the best directing comes from that. You can prepare everything as much as you want, but in the end, when you get there, the foundation of good acting is really listening, even if you have a lot of dialogue, you know. unless you're just talking to yourself. Well, then you listen to yourself, I guess. But to just take that first step and listen and see where that takes you, no matter what you've planned, you know, is positive.
But when I was approaching the character, I never thought of her in that way ever. And I thought that she was really more so the archetypal artist's wife in terms of her support and her interest in his work. And so I think that that's what I tried to express in the character throughout the film.
She wrote an academic book, and she became an analyst herself as well. This is something that we can't really deal with in the movie, but she actually ended up, it seemed that anyone who came in contact with psychoanalysis in those days ended up being an analyst, you know, instead of a patient. It was incredibly attractive, magnetic kind of profession that hadn't existed before and was suddenly accessible to people who I don't think would ever have thought of themselves as being a healer or a physician.
Question here.
Hi, I'm Linda Mardame from Press Plus One, and I wanted to ask Kiera...
In the mic.
So sorry, is this your second production that you've done in Canada? Or Canadian production? Co-production?
My second Canadian, yes. I have done one of
You did Silk, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was wondering if Canadian films give you a little bit more range. You're allowed to kind of, you know, stretch your acting legs a little bit more.
Anything, you know, I think it's about stories. I mean, obviously, you have great talent here. You know, I mean, the opportunity to work with David was one that I think any actor would jump at.
Well, the same question could be extended to Jeremy Thomas.
Canada has such a healthy film business because it's created an ambience that you can make films in through freedom, and there's an economy here. So on this particular film, I can see two of my partners down here, Marco and Marty. We worked on a film and brought together various systems of financing. So, you know, it's expedient in one way, but of course I love working in Canada. It's a very good place to shoot movies. And in fact, this movie was prepared in Canada, shot in Europe mainly, and then it was post-produced in Canada. So it was like a co-production.
And for Viggo and David, I'm just wondering about the relationship between you two as actor and director. Can you talk about how your relationship has evolved from History of Violence to Eastern Promises and now A Dangerous Method?
I think we're done, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it's over. This was just the last straw. I mean, with Viggo, I basically just say action and cut. I don't really say anything else. That's pretty much it.
He goes for a coffee and comes back.
I come back and I ask, is he finished? Is he finished? Okay.
Why should we put so much effort into suppressing our most basic natural instincts?
Never repress anything.
I want you to punish me.
There's a rumor you've taken one of your patients as a mistress.
Surely you didn't think I'd let you go without putting up a fight.
Don't you think we ought to stop?
Do you want to stop?
You still love him.
Will you come back to us now?
Sometimes you have to do something unforgivable just to be able to go on living.